brand new sponsor, Ceramic Hairpin, a part of this competition. They'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more.
Good evening, racing fans. Welcome to round 4 of our Caribbean Touring Car Championship, the Season 6 Italian Tour. I, as always, am your host, Steven Stewart, El Presidente. They call me live from the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simon-Jalli. 4.2 kilometer circuit nestled in Italy's Adriatic coast, renowned for its blend of fast sweepers and tight technical corners. I will show some very interesting lines this evening or morning, depending on where you're watching from, and some very spectacular challenges for the drivers. This is round 4. We are visiting, as we just said, Misano World Circuit. It regularly plays host to some of the biggest names in motorsport, such as the MotoGP, the World Superbike, and the GT World Challenge. Today it's our turn as we bring you our Caribbean Touring Car Championship and the brilliant likes of this new season's updates with the BMW. The action that's been coming to us fast and furious has been relentless. The driver turnout has been absolutely epic, to say the least, and I am extremely happy as we even got a shout out on our local radio this evening, Power 106 FM, who have taken notice to our championship and had to reach out to us to get a few updates on what's been happening with us at the JSRA and with what's been happening with this CTCC season. So it's been absolutely epic. We have 2 action-packed 20-minute sprint races ahead, as always. Not as always, for the first time or for the first season, we are having a top 10 reverse grid in not the top 10, my apologies, a full reverse grid in the second race. So from all the way down from P18, P19, we will have drivers reversed and fighting. It will definitely stir things up, while the success ballast does again add some extra layers of strategy for the top performers. This week we do have an update to the ballast system. Jaden Harrison did place first last week and did receive 52 my apologies, he has 30 kilograms of ballast added, so he will have 52 kilograms this week. If you remember, in round 2 he did miss out on the top 5, which is why, even though he is at the moment the championship leader, he will be enjoying that first place position for the time being. So he's at 52 kilograms. He's now sitting in P4. The 3 drivers ahead of him have very minimal ballast, as I noticed. Only Roger Keller there, out of the top 5, currently has any form of ballast. So he is sitting there with 27 kilograms, is the Swiss driver. Daniel Velez as well, 25 kilograms for placing second last week, does sit with 60 kilograms. And I know the BMW will be feeling the effects of that here at Misano this evening. John Singleton did lose most of his because all of his, my apologies, because he placed outside of the top 5. So he's now sitting with 0 kilograms in the bronze class. I believe he's first as it stands, but he will possibly be missing this week. We'll watch and see how that goes along. Raven Plummer is the next person that does have a little bit of ballast. She is sitting with 40 kilograms after placing 4th last week. She has 15 kilograms. Kurt Moss, who I'm noticing in the chat and not on the track, unfortunately will not be with us again this week, but we look forward to whenever he comes. He currently sits with 15 kilograms, and Kimani Eastman, as always, not as always, as of last week, does sit now with 10 kilograms for the foreseeable future. It should be reminded that only the top 5 will be receiving any form of ballast here in the races. So if you place outside, you are reduced a little bit. But unfortunately for Mr. Robinson there, he's just had the better luck with the drivers and has found himself in the top 3 for each race so far since the beginning of this championship. But that being said, we have two 20-minute races, 23 minutes because of the rolling start, but nonetheless 20-minute sprint races to come. And we have about 10 minutes remaining. We have a 15-minute qualifying session to come as well. As you can see there, it is early morning. It does say 2:20 p.m., but please ignore that. That time is wrong. You should see the sun rising right by time for qualifying. So in the interim, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers are still hitting the track. We even have the point of views for a few of the drivers this evening. Jaden Harrison's stream should begin by about, well, right as the qualifying begins. And a link to his point of view has been posted in our Instagram story. If you can take a look at the top right section of the stream, you should notice where you can follow us on Instagram. Leave a follow, leave a like when you get the chance. The support does help us, and we are happy even getting reached out by our local radio communications network that, you know, we are being recognized more and more each and every day. So it is something that we do enjoy to see, the growth of sim racing, not only in Jamaica but also in the region. Right now we're boasting drivers from Brazil, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, Colombia and Panama, Canada. We have two drivers from Canada and one from Australia for this evening, but unfortunately not seeing John for this evening. He is leading the bronze class, but nonetheless I know he did have a few things. We are actually in the midst of planning our first global karting championship, which is going to be absolutely epic. We'll be using the mods developed by John and his team over at AC Karting, which has been an absolute blessing. We just got the LiDAR scan for our own Jamaican local karting track, so we're definitely looking forward to the finished product from them, and that will be included in the Global Championship. So a lot more to come, ladies and gentlemen. A reminder to follow us on Instagram, like, share and subscribe where you can, and let's get this show on the road. We have roughly about 8 minutes, so I'll give you a break from my face and my voice as we get as the drivers prepare for an absolute shootout. The ballast system as well, before I go, has looked like it's going to throw a little bit of extra drama here, because one, Roher Robinson has enjoyed the first 3 rounds as he loves Amanza, he loves Mugello, and he loves Imola. This is his first time racing at the Misano Circuit, and we're finally going to see him look like he might stress out a little bit as the racing goes on. So him with 60 kilograms should throw a little bit of extra drama in the mix. He should be 62 kilograms, my apologies, as some of the cars, unfortunately the front wheel drive cars, had to add an extra 10 kilograms to keep the racing as balanced as possible. But the BMW is out in and stunting. We are seeing the sun rise slowly and slowly, so racing should resume very soon. We have qualifying. Is that Mr. Keller there? Yes, he is right in the midst of Michael McNamee. We'll just ride along board with them until the qualifying session begins. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, get your popcorn, get your dinner, keep your water close, as I'm going to run for a bottle of mine. You can see the rotation in that Toyota Corolla as he's literally just pushing that BMW through and through the corners. And I'm sure Michael, who looks like he has good or decent pace, now sitting in P5 in the practice session, will have his work cut out for him this evening. Roger Keller with 27 kilograms should still very much so have his work cut out for him as well. Kyle Barrett, now we saw pace from him last week. Will we see any more? And yes, immediately goes to the top of the charts. So I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, we may just get a brand new pole sitter as well as a brand new race winner this evening. We've had quite a few in the last few seasons and podium sitters, so definitely something to enjoy, something to look out for, and something I am absolutely excited to see. Kyle Barrett, there is a Carter, so hopefully we can even get him as a representative to represent Jamaica in that global tour to come. We will release all of the information on our social media, so again, follow us on Instagram at JSRA official. There obviously is no space, no underscore, and you can get all of our information from there. If you want to be a part of the racing as well, we do enjoy these full grids, and as you can see, we are getting some really clean, hard, and competitive racing. By the time qualifying begins in 5 minutes, we should have the sunrise. So I'm looking forward to what is to come. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with the action, or we will be with the action, my apologies, in only a moment's time.
seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, it is still dark outside, but the sun is rising over there in Misano. Qualifying has just begun. This is the outlap period for the drivers. Kyle Barrett is leading the pack. He clearly found pace this evening and just said, you know, let me be the first to get out and set an indicative lap. He's feeling himself as he should be, as he was the fastest driver out in practice this evening. We have him followed very closely by the blue Ford Focus driven by Jaden Harrison with 52 kilograms. Kyle has none, so he does have the advantage here this evening, and he's looked very rapid as we see the sun rising. By time the race one has begun, we should get a very nice sunrise in the background here at the picturesque Misano World Circuit. One of the drivers' favorites, especially by turn one, so we'll definitely see a lot of moves. Well, some persons hate it, some persons love it, but the majority do seem to find favor in it, so we watch and ride along board to see what is to come. But that being said, 4.2 kilometers of racetrack. Jaden Harrison there already looking very racy in qualifying, maybe trying to stick as close as possible to make sure he gets a slipstream on the start-finish stretch as they head on now and run down to turn one. Kyle Barrett will be the first driver to set a indicative lap there, and you can see him just pulling away from Jaden Harrison, but Jaden should be enjoying himself in the corners. That is where he may find a little bit more favor from that Ford Focus, especially with the added weight. But that being said, right now Kyle does look like he will have the benefit, as he has set a purple sector 1, 19.867 for him, 19.959 for Jaden Harrison. So as it stands, Kyle Barrett looks like he is very much so in the good runnings to take provisional pole, but we'll continue to ride along board. Rohir Robinson is the next driver. He's only a thousandths down on Jaden Harrison, setting a 19.958. Jaden was a 959, but that being said, again, purple sector 2 quickly dismantled by Jaden Harrison with a 31.1. Kyle did go a tenth slower, so still not too far away. Jaden there just trying to stick as close as possible maybe just to one, distract the driver, but two, just keep in that slipstream as best as possible as he goes around the track and tries to maintain as much speed throughout this qualifying session as possible. And he is at the disadvantage and keeping relatively good and clean with the driver ahead of Kyle Barrett, so we'll continue to ride along board with them. Mikhail Charles now setting up purple sector 2, so we'll ride along board with him as he is coming around now to well, he has a little bit of way to go before he finishes his lap. But no, Kyle Barrett and Jaden Harrison set the two first times, and there you go with a 2 minutes .054. Jaden was quicker, a 1 minute 44.836. My apologies, was the last lap, but it seemed Kyle had invalidated in the final sector, and so did Jaden. So their laps have not counted to the top or final start. So we'll definitely look to see what happens, but as it stands, Michelle Wallace there does take provisional pole, quickly dismantled there from Oswin Wilson there from the Guyanese driver, following closely with Daniel Velez. But Kyle Barrett now did back out, maybe feeling a little bit too much attention there with Jaden, but guess who he has right behind him? It is Mr. Rohir Robinson, who did say he wants to make a statement here, but we know this is going to be one of his weaker races in this championship. 145.816 for the Trinidadian driver of Mikhail Charles, so we'll definitely look forward to see what he can come. Raven Plummer did post on her story last night that she is coming to win this race, so we're definitely looking forward. She has a purple sector 1, and how will she do in sector 2? Purple sector 2. We ride along now to see she is not going as fast as, let's say, Kyle and Jaden were in sector 2, but they are 9/10 clear in sector 1. Sector 1 was a 19.565, I believe the fastest was a 19.8, but again that was invalidated. So she does come around the final few corners here now, right by the hairpin right hander, and she'll be hugging that corner, using as much of the exit as she can possibly use. Heads out now to the final two corners. Where will she place in these final stages? 145.816 is the time to beat as it stands. 144 low was the provisional pole time that we saw on practice, so 144.292 is the time to beat as it stands. Raven Plummer promoted into P1. Oswin Wilson as well, just touching into the 44s with a 144.930. This is his first time in these Caribbean Touring cars for this season, for the Italian Tour at least. So we'll definitely look to see what he can do. He's always a close contender for the top 3. Now sits in P4. Roger Keller took that back and took P3 with a 144.672. Mikhail Charles now with a 144.391. Kyle Barrett though is not improving in the second sector. He's only 100th down on his personal best in sector 2. So we'll watch and ride along board with him. He's not necessarily improving, but he's still relatively on a fast lap, as is Jaden Harrison, who was slow in sector 2, but that should put them up at least in the top 5 for now. But we'll ride along board with these drivers now. 31.3 is Kyle's sector 2, so that is not the best as it stands. He looked quick in practice and he looked quick in the early stages of this qualifying session, so we'll continue to ride along board with him. You see Rohir Robinson there as well in the rear view, not making the inroads that he would like, but as we said earlier, this is not going to be his favorite track here this evening at Misano. But 144.657 for Kyle Barrett, and that does put him into P4. We saw him in the low 144s earlier in practice, so we'll definitely look to see where he can gain back that advantage. Jaden Harrison there pulled off on the side, does take provisional pole with a 144.085. Mikhail Charles now is looking rapid as he has a purple sector 2 and is coming around the final bend now to start and set his third lap of the qualifying session, and 144 P3 is for Michael Charles, and that does keep him in P4. Daniel Velez, the Colombian, also promoted into P5, sits now with a 144.584. Should be reminded as well that he does have quite a bit of ballast here this evening as well, so he will definitely be looking forward to try and get as much damage limitation as possible and gain as much points by the end of this race. He is still in contention for P2 and P1. There is Michael Charles and Jaden Harrison there flashing to get out of my way, and there you see Jaden Harrison just pulling to the side and getting out as quickly as possible. And again, Jaden just trying to see if he can slip in that slipstream and maybe gain back an advantage. Oswin Wilson now sits in P2. Did not have the perfect sector 1, but did have a really good sector 2 with a 30.947, but still this is not looking like enough to take away that pole position. But as we've seen in the past, a rapid driver the guy needs of Mr. Wilson, so we'll definitely look forward to see what he can bring here this, well, it's morning on track but evening in Jamaica, so we'll continue to hope and pray that the racing will go as smoothly as possible. Albert there still sitting in P6, still has some work to do. He did look rapid as well, so we'll see where he can place in these dying moments. But as you see, there is Oswin coming around and 3/10 down on his personal best so far, so I'm sure he'll be going at it again in the next few moments. Daniel Velez, ladies and gentlemen, a reminder, we have the point of views, the POVs for Daniel Velez, David Tuta and Jaden Harrison streaming live from their own personal streaming platforms. If you want to get a more in-depth look on what they have to offer, please feel free, you can check us check our Instagram story for the link. It's a direct link to their live stream, so please support them where you can. It's always awesome to have them being represented, especially and getting the due acknowledgement that they so desire and deserve. So we do look forward to supporting our drivers as they support us. We have 20 drivers. I think this is the second highest in CTCC history, and something I am very much so happy about. It's not even just that we're going up in quantity, but at the same time we're improving on our quality. The racers have gotten better and better every single week. We had a little bit of mishaps in last week's race, but nonetheless we all know that this environment is conducive to better racing, conducive to a clean and competitive environment. You can see the sunrise there in the background, this picturesque track. That's why the camera angles are so cinematic, to say the least. We see, who is that? I think that was Oswin Wilson and Jaden Harrison in front of Daniel Velez. I'll check that in only a moment's time. No, that looks like possibly Luis Arenas, but we'll get back to that in only a second. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Kyle Barrett now looking like he's finding a little bit of repetition now as he goes 3/10 clear in sector 2, setting the lap on fire with a 30.739 in sector 2, looking like he might very well be taking this pole position. Hopefully that's not the commentator's curse at the best, but we'll continue to ride along board now as he comes around. And well, he has a few more corners to go. The fast right-hander there as he heads down deep, and he goes until he reaches that hairpin and hugs that corner, uses as much of the track as possible, slams on the brake, comes around and tries now to see if he can improve on his lap time and possibly even take that pole position away from Jaden Harrison. Will this be the first 143 of the evening as he rallies around the final corner, and he is looking rapid? Ladies and gentlemen, this looks like it is, and that is the first 143.846. Did not set a purple sector 3, but nonetheless good enough, more than good enough. 2/10 clear of P2. to get that position and snatch it away from Jaden Harrison. Does he feel comfortable now is the question, as Rohir Robinson here still struggling, sitting in P11. A man typically in the top 3 is definitely having his work cut out for him this evening. He tried to barter with the stewards this evening, saying, hey, just start me at the back and take off all of the ballast and I will work my way through, but unfortunately that's not how this works. So he will still have quite a battle out for him this evening. We will definitely be looking at revamping and improving on the ballast system, as well as it's been absolutely epic. But with the turnout that we've had this season, it might just be a good opportunity to increase it from the top 5 ballast, top 5 finishers to top 10 if we can keep this consistency in the numbers, which, based on what we're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, this looks like the future of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. The numbers are getting greater, the quality is getting greater, and the only thing, we will soon have even more assistance coming, as our new location for the JSRA may very well be up for announcements in a few weeks. We've had some very good news. We did our first site visit. We won't break any or too much information right away, but basically where we are moving to will give us opportunities to even bring in some younger folks to introduce them into sim racing, into the overall category of sim racing. That's from streaming to racing to commentary, all facets of it, and esports. So we're hoping that this will provide some opportunity for the new generation and give the old feet like myself a little bit of a break as we head down now into the final 20 seconds of qualifying. Ladies and gentlemen, what a session this has been. As it stands, we have 2 Jamaicans and a Guyanese in the top 3. We see Jaden Harrison there disconnecting quickly, but nonetheless I'm sure he'll be back sooner than later. He has a little bit of time until the qualifying session has concluded. This is going to be a lot of drivers' last lap. Well, everybody's last lap now, as you see Mr. Luis Arenas now promoted from P19 to P11 with that final lap. So Rohir Robinson still has quite a bit of work to do. He's outside of points position this evening, and I'm sure we'll be just looking to use this as his drop race. We have 5 rounds in total, but only 4 will be counted. We have Stéphane Tremblay of Canada not looking like he's improving here in that BMW M2. Comes around the final corner to set his final lap, and does he improve? No, he does not. Unfortunate for him there. We have Davil Park, who has had a very good last few showings, and there he goes, going a little bit too wide, invalidating his lap, and that will put his race undone. Nicholas Donald as well comes across the line. Again, no one to improve. We have P12 of Mr. Robinson coming around the line now as well, looking like he might just improve and head into the top 10, and there it is with the final points position. But he has Miss Plomo right there in, well, she's already ahead in 5th position. Will she improve? And what? She improves by 100th of a second above Kyle Barrett now to take pole position away from the Jamaican. So we have the American of Raven Plomo who is left. It is a Colombian of Daniel Velez, and he comes around the final corner, and he did not look like he upgraded or was promoted on that final lap, unfortunately, feeling the effects of that ballast with his BMW M2. But nonetheless, Raven Plummer said it on her Instagram, I'm coming here to win this evening's race, and so far has not put a foot wrong, and is looking like she will definitely be looking to try and snatch that top step of the podium away from the typical race leaders. But right now we have 2 persons who have never won in this round or this season of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Raven is not a stranger to winning races, but she hasn't won one since coming back in the Italian Tour. Will tonight be the race for her to take that position? Jaden Harrison was only 700th away from pole position, and Cal Barrett now only 100th, not even 1100th, 100th. Ladies and gentlemen, what an absolutely epic qualifying session. Ladies and gentlemen, we will prepare the drivers now for the qualifying session, as for the race session, my apologies, as the drivers will now be getting ready to get racing and get into their safety car. Their rolling start, my apologies.
You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are only a few moments away from racing. The American of Raven Plummo does sit on pole position. We will have a rolling start. I repeat, we will have a rolling start this evening for today's race. Not sure what happened there. Just give us 1 second as we try and get back into the servo.
You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race.
I got kicked from the servo. That's not good.
New sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this
And I cannot rejoin. Okay, I'm rejoining now.
quite
That was scary.
the work order.
Not sure what happened there, but we got it sorted out relatively quickly. And we are ready for the action. Raven Plumber does lead the pack. As you see, the BMWs especially will be weaving as much, especially on the race start. They normally get a good launch from the standing start procedure. You see Kyle Barrett there is the first time sitting on the top 3 step, and will definitely be looking to see where he can get a jump on the driver ahead of him. This is his best starting position so far, and I'm sure we'll be looking to improve as quickly as possible. Raven Plummer sits in pole position, Kyle Barrett in P2, Jaden Harrison in P3, Oswin Wilson of Guyana in P4. Who was that? Michael McNamee in P5, Mikhail Charles in P6. I was wondering if it was him that we saw spin out just yet. Daniel Velez in P7, Roger Kello in P8, Misano Wallace in P9, Roher Robinson in P10, Kimani Eastman in P11, Luis Arenas in P12, David Tuta in P13, Rodrigo Senawild in P14, Milton Zinega in P15. The drivers should be lining up now in double file. Nicholas Donald, I believe, should be in P17, as well as Ricardo Ribeiro in P16. There they fix back their positions quickly. Gary Otero, haven't seen him in a while, sits in P18. Deville Park in P19, and Stéphane Tremblay rounds out the pack in P20. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 20 minutes of racing to come. By the time they should be passing the start finish line, the sun has been rising, and we should get a full morning time race by the time the second race is up for grabs and ready to go racing. But now we feel the antsiness. I'm hearing the drivers in the background ready to go racing, and it will be green light racing in only a moment's time. Listen to those cars roar as the driving will begin, and there they go. Milton already getting a jump start for going a little bit too early there, but there is Kyle losing out on the straight, so clearly did not get as great of a pass as he would have wanted. Jaden Harrison there right on the rear end of that Mitsubishi Lancer, one car that I am a little bit biased towards, but nonetheless will be pushing to see where he can gain that advantage. And there he goes, takes a peeky looky, and not enough is there for him. Tries to cut the corner as best as possible, but Kyle is opening the door for him. Who gets a better exit? It looks like Kyle, so he should be protecting. Those elbows were out and pushes him wide a little bit. Michael McNamee has stayed status quo, but Daniel Velez has been promoted by 1 position, and now Michael McNamee, as spoken to soon, loses out to that BMW of the Colombian driven for Nova Racing in Daniel Velez. Daniel Velez now moving up 2 positions on the race start. Mikhail Charles as well has been in status quo. Luis Arena started in P12, now in P9, so he's definitely having a good start to this race, and the drivers are still going at it. This is only the start of the race. Mikhail Charles are losing a position now to Roher Robinson, who started in P10. He was one that definitely did not enjoy that qualifying session very much, but clearly, like in the beginning of this race, now sits in P7. If he stays outside of the top 5, who was that went careening out? That was a Swiss driver of Roger Kello, so unfortunate for him. He will have to be finding his way back to the front of the pack at some later stage in this race. But right now we have Stéphane Tremblay as well, another driver who has gained an extra position. But we'll take a look, see, at the top 4 as a matter of fact. We have Daniel Velez not too far off, just waiting on an opportunity as well to pounce. So we'll definitely look forward to what will come with him. But the top 4 now only separated by about 2 seconds. 4 seconds, my apologies, from P1 to P4, and no, my apologies, that's about 2 seconds. And Oswin as well is setting a very fast sector 1, so he's definitely finding pace and maybe even preserving his tires as the racing has just begun. Raven Plummer is the one with the most amount of pressure. There's Kyle Barrett now, just taking a look. He does go on a dive bomb on the inside, takes now that outside line. Raven Plummer with the switcheroo and takes back that pole position, that P1 position, my apologies. But right now Raven is on the ideal line. Kyle will have to concede for the foreseeable future. And if you notice, ladies and gentlemen, in the bottom right above Kyle's name, you have the pedal input, so please feel free to look at the steering, the braking, how these drivers will be trailing off the brake to see where and how to gain an advantage, being as consistent as possible. But what a start to this race has been. This is a quality of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship that we've noticed for the past 3 rounds. And there's Jaden Harrison now finding himself to just catch right back up. Remember, he does have 52 kilograms compared to the likes of Kyle in front of him. Raven as well does have ballast. I'll check back and remind myself how much, but nonetheless she's holding station as best as possible in that BMW. But there you will see Kyle now, and I'm sure this is where you'll see his benefit, because in the straight lines he doesn't have that extra ballast, but in the corners hopefully he'll be able to stick a little bit closer to the ground and just keep within as much time to the drivers in front of him, as the 3 are now in the 144s. We're seeing Gary Otero there being disqualified, unfortunately, for not taking the drive-through by lap 3. So that is not of ours, but unfortunately of the servo and real penalty. It is all slated in the rule book. So unfortunate for him there, because he's going to be missing out on the action. But there, Jaden Harrison still just looking and lurking, waiting for his moment. We'll just take a quick look see at now Rohir Robinson, who is still very much so on the hunt for Michael McNamee, who is chasing down Daniel Velez now in that BMW M2. The 2 drivers are in the BMW M2, our newest addition to this evening, or to this season and this caliber of racing. So we definitely we've been getting only good reviews so far, and definitely enjoying the racing that it's been showing nonetheless. And there, ladies and gentlemen, we saw Oswin and Kyle there in an incident, and that takes Kyle out of contention for the fight. Rejoins not in the safest way. Who was that? Luis Arenas is promoted. Rohir Robinson, guess what, as well, has been promoted into P5. But Kyle Barrett now was in the top 2, now in the top 8. He's sitting right now in P8, right behind Misano Wallace, now in the battle between those 2. So we'll watch to see what happens there. We did miss what happened. We just moved to Kyle, or the camera moved to Kyle, and we just saw him sideways as he was fighting with Jaden Harrison there. And then unfortunately Oswin Wilson, who now sits in P9. So he's clearly the bigger loser. Well, I'm not sure who would be the bigger loser at this point, but Oswin Wilson now in P9 was in P4. He loses 5 positions. Kyle loses 7, and that was just him driving and just got caught up in it. So unfortunate for him there, but the 2 drivers have been rapid all weekend, so we'll see where they can find themselves with 30 minutes remaining. And as I'm seeing Taj in the chat saying that Barrett got bumped by Jaden, so we'll hear about that in the driver in the post-race stewarding after the race. But that being said, whew, at least we get a little bit of action now, as we see Oswin trying to make a move there. The Guyanese driver on the Jamaican of Mission Wallace does have the ID line there, but not enough time to get that move to stick. Doesn't want to be a little bit too dramatic, and just sticks in the slipstream of the Jamaican ahead of him. So we'll continue to watch that. But Daniel Velez in P4. Michael McNamee, he did have his first podium position a few months ago in this in the JSRA, but there is Osman there pushing elbows out and just forcing his way through very respectfully, but still nonetheless being very assertive with that forward focus to take that position away from the Jamaican of Michelle Wallace. He now has Kyle Barrett. He had him in the sights earlier on and now again has him in the sights to try and catch back up and possibly pass and gain back those extra points. Raven Plummer now sits on pole, Jaden Harrison in P2 and Michael McNamee in P3 is still in eyesight of the drivers, but look who is here. Rohey Robinson did not have the greatest qualifying session and is now on the rear end of the podium, seeing up to P2. He was definitely not enjoying his qualifying session, started P10, now sits in P5. This is supposed to be his drop race, and clearly if this is where it's going to end, he can easily use another moment for his drop race, but there took a little look-see, but he will not gain an advantage on the exits, especially because of that ballast. He is riding with 62 kilograms here this evening, so he does have one of the most, or he is one of the most disadvantaged. But ladies and gentlemen, look at that sunrise, look at that sky as the drivers come around now onto the fastest part of the track, and they will be heading down now into the fast right-hander down now clearly as they head into the hairpin area of Misano World Circuit. Will he send a late dive? And he will not be able to, but not yet at least, as he now heads down into the hairpin. Daniel Velez now will be as defensive as possible. We've seen him as the Colombian Minister of Defense in the past, as he took that position away from the Swiss driver of Roger Keller, but unfortunately Roger is out of the points position as we speak, so he will have his work cut out for him to try and catch up. But Raven Plummer now with a dominant race so far now sits about 6 seconds away from P2, and he will 7 seconds, my apologies. Jaden will have a rough time to try and hold off the drivers behind him, as he has a line of racers from P3 all the way down to P12, basically only a few seconds away. This is Snake on the mobile phone from back in the 90s and 2000s, and you're just seeing a line of drivers there as they head coming out, and you will just watch and see how they will be trying to reach back up to that Jamaican right in front of him. Again, Jaden with 52 kilograms will have a rough time trying to hold off, but as we've seen in the past, he started on P2, P3. He does have the pace, ladies and gentlemen. It's just about putting the foot to the metal and making sure that he's as consistent and clean as possible. Maybe even trying to use Michael as a buffer to himself and the Colombian and Jamaican behind him. Rohey Robinson right now is the biggest winner, obviously outside of Raven Plummer, who is looking very confident to take her first win of the race, but that 7-second gap has dwindled to about 6 seconds, so we have 10 minutes remaining. We'll watch and see how that gap will continue to either extend or go down. But nonetheless, there goes Jaden Harrison now. Did find himself spinning out, and was that karma now relegated behind the man that he hit in Kyle Barrett now. So he is sitting in P6, Luis Arenas in P7, and Oswin Wilson in P8. Rohey Robinson is now in P4, as we see him right there on the rear end of Michael McNamee, and Kyle Barrett now has not given up his podium position. He wants to at least gain back P2, and two of the drivers ahead of him has a substantial amount of ballast, so clearly he will have the pace heading down now. And he takes a look on the outside. Will he get a switcheroo? He'll get the run up as well as they head down now into this very short straight, but nonetheless he just concedes right now, because that is not necessarily where you want to make the move, but it's a run up coming out of where they're going to be coming through next, and that is where you're going to see him try and maybe throw a little bit of extra dummy. Turn one as well, one of the more prominent moments or locations for an overtake or a dummy, but we know Rohey Robinson as an experienced driver will have his head on a swivel as he's now looking, and there goes Kyle. This is a moment where you're going to try and get the best exit as possible, and with less ballast we should see that car starting to pull away off the Mitsubishi Lancer. He does look, oh, I'm guessing right now Rohei Robinson using his hybrid system in defense as the two come now fastest section of the track, and it looks very promising for Kyle as he just comes out ahead, both I'm sure using that hybrid system. Rohei Robinson trying to do the switcheroo and does get the inside line, has to back out, and that does scare Kyle a little bit, and that puts him right in prime position for the picking. And who will be the later person right here? As you see, elbows are out. Kyle pushing Rohei off the track and gains that position. Not sure what the stewards will think about that, but as it stands, Kyle Barrett now promoted into P4, Rohei Robinson into P5. Jaden Harrison will be looking now at Rohei Robinson, his closest title contender, and I'm sure we'll be trying to get past him as quickly as possible. But there goes Rohei Robinson, dive on the inside, now the outside, and he's not giving up his position, and that just puts Jaden right in prime position to make his move on Kyle. So as it stands, Kyle is in the battle of his life, and there goes Jaden Harrison. We just saw a Lewis Hamilton moment at Silverstone, and as a through goes Hamilton. And what brilliant racing from these drivers, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolutely epic battle so far. And unfortunately, we now have Kyle Barrett now, who did start in P2, was only 100th off of the pole sitter. Just got a drive-through for cutting, as well as Mikhail Charles getting a drive-through for speeding. I'm guessing that's a glitch from the system, so unfortunately he will have to maybe hope that he can gain. Well, he is in the pit, so maybe that wasn't a glitch and just an issue on his end. But nonetheless, Kyle Barrett now unfortunately will be losing that P4 position in only a matter of time, and as it stands, he's so close to the other drivers behind him that even where he comes, he might be coming outside of the points positions. But where he will start for the reverse grid, as you see him just going extremely, just putting those elbows out to say, sir, you are the reason why I'm in this position to begin with. I'm going to make this as hard as possible for you. You will not gain an extra point. I will slow you down even hopefully push you back into the clutches of Rohei Robinson right behind, just waiting for his moment to pounce. But Michael McNamee right now is in prime position with 5.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining to keep that P3 final podium position. And I'm sure he will be hoping that Kyle can hold off the hoarding Jamaican behind him and just keep him at bay for as long as possible, so that they can at least try their best to get out of the clutches of Jaden Harrison. But the pace has been relatively clean so far. Michael McNamee in the 145.396 and Daniel Velez 144.903. We see Mikhail Charles there is a blue flag, so he's just conceding those positions, not making life too difficult for the drivers ahead. There is Kyle Barrett now coming up to the blue flag. We've seen Mikhail get 2 drive-throughs so far, and he has 1 more to take, so that is why you're seeing him being overtaken. Typically one to be found in the top 3. Jaden late on the brakes, but nonetheless they make it clean through. Mikhail Charles are coming out of the way to make sure that the drivers are interrupted in the next few stages of the race. Oswin Wilson and Rohei Robinson are the next 2, and Oswin did make the move on Oswin, but Rohei again not giving up his position as quickly as possible. So Mikhail, they're going extremely wide to get out of the way, and there is Rohei Robinson trying to put back that pressure, but again Rohei does have 62 kilograms of ballast here, so he's just holding off for points as much as he can possibly get, typically in the podium positions. But unfortunate for him here, well, very fortunate for him, because he started P10, now sitting in P3, and I'm sure we'll be trying his best. Kyle Barrett now taking his drive-through penalty, and unfortunately that will be relegating him to about P13, I'm assuming, as P12 is now coming around the corner with more speed going into turn 1, and P13 is on the way, but nonetheless will not have enough time to catch back up Kyle, or will he? As that pit exit is very long, and he does come out right in front, P12, and that will be heartbreak here for Kyle Barrett here. Has not done anything personally wrong as he's been fighting his way through from start to finish, but nonetheless we will see him back for the reverse grid. He was in prime position and can still gain points as he's not too far away from P10, and points are what you want more than anything else. He is one that wants to be promoted into the next league, into silver class, so we'll continue to ride along board and watch his progression. But he is one of our newest drivers and has been somebody who is just being developing every race, lap after lap. He is a Carter, so we know he is naturally talented, but nonetheless will have some work to do to get back up to the pack, but started in prime position. Looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the action in the next few races and rounds. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now on board with the lead livery designer Kimani Eastman, putting a little bit of pressure there on the BMW M2 of his countryman Misano Wallace, and Misano is just back for the CTCCs after a little hiatus. Had some things to settle in reality. We are so happy to have him back as we will continue to ride along board. Jaden Harrison there now snatching pole or fastest lap from the likes of Raven Plummer for that extra point, but Raven Plummer at this point is looking like she's just on a Sunday night stroll and had her fun in the first few stages, had her fun in qualifying, but so far hasn't put a foot wrong and now sits in P1, very much so clear away from the field, and is enjoying that break. But Daniel Velez all the way down to P5 is in a race of their own. They're a few seconds away from P6 to P9, and then it's P10 to P13, and we will just continue to ride along board. But now we watch as we have a minute and a half to go. Kimani Eastman still trying to pressure Misano Wallace as much as possible and gain that extra point and see if he can even force a mistake. He'll throw a late dive bomb. Kyle Barrett there as well made a move on Davil Park, so he has one more position to make up before he can gain a point in the point standing. So we hope that he will get that done and underway, but he is a few seconds away from P10. But as it stands, we will have 2 more laps of racing as Raven will pass this lap and the time will elapse after she passes. So we will have 1 more lap after the next lap as she starts her penultimate lap, and this will be a victory, not a victory lap as yet, but we'll get to that as soon as time comes. We will ride along board quickly with Michael and Daniel, because Michael is not letting the Colombian get away as he is right there in the way for the picking. Jaden Harrison has lost 2 positions there to Rohey Robinson, and Oswin Wilson as a Guyanese driver now is promoted into P4, and Jaden, I'm sure, will be fighting now because Rohey Robinson is his closest title contender, so he wants to make sure that he keeps as many points. And there goes Jaden Harrison as the 2 make 3 and the 3 make 2, and now back into 1, turning into 2 into 1, and Rohey Robinson, Jaden Harrison and Oswin Wilson just switching around 3 positions in one go. What a move there by Rohey Robinson, putting that car exactly where it needed to be. Jaden Harrison did try his best, but that wasn't enough. Takes a look-see on the inside, tries to throw a little bit of dummy to throw Rohey off, and the 2 are now going to be on a drag race now. They have the fastest section of the track to come as they come around this fast right-hander. Slow down enough, try to carry as much speed. Jaden Harrison tries to switch her on the outside, on the inside, my apologies, and now they will have a drag race, hybrid system versus hybrid system, 52 versus 62 kilograms of ballast, and they are neck and neck, ladies and gentlemen. We saw it earlier, and right now Jaden does have the fastest lap. He has the inside line. Will he try and hold that inside line? The 2 get very close as Raven now comes around the final corner to start the ultimate lap, and will that be contact? No, Rohey Robinson just sticking like glue to the rear end of that Ford Focus. But Raven Plummer now, I will remind you, is starting her final lap and will be getting ready for her victory lap as the drivers now from P4 to P6 are fighting it out, and there goes Jaden Harrison getting a drive through as well, and that is contact with himself and his closest competitor. That puts Daniel and Michael very much so clear and away from the field to get away. Misano Wallace now sits in P6 and he is now looking at the rear end of that Hyundai Elantra of Rohir Robinson, and I'm sure we'll be trying to see if he can even get an extra point there. But Rohir Robinson will definitely be, well, he should still be happy. Not exactly sure what had happened just yet, but nonetheless we'll be getting those results done and through the post-race stewarding. But wow, what a race this has been. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take a quick look at the race leader as she's coming around the final, well, heading into sector 2 now, into the fastest section of the track. Daniel Velezno as well, still holding off the Jamaican behind, who is very close. And this is the last lap, ladies and gentlemen. I repeat, this is the last lap. The two drivers are neck and neck, and they will be fighting it out to see where they can finish and make their way through. But we'll just take a quick look now at the race leader. Hasn't put a foot wrong, 7 seconds ahead of the closest competitor. She's just been on a Sunday night stroll as she comes around the final corner, well, final 2 corners, my apologies, comes around now the final corner to finish up in the top step of the podium. But it's not over until the Fat Lady sings, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen, the Fat Lady just sang. Raven Plummer takes P1 from the drivers. Rohir Robinson now getting a drive through as well for cutting Daniel Velez in P2, Michael McNamee as well in P3, Oswin Wilson in P4. Rohir Robinson on the final lap does put another foot wrong, and that promotes Michelle and Kimani into P5, into P6. Will Rodrigo pass Rohir before the finish line? And no, he did not. Rohir keeps P7, Rodrigo in P8, Kyle Barrett now in P9, David Tuta to take the final points position. What an absolute race this was. Luis Arenas in P11, Davil Park in P12, Jaden Harrison taking his drive through as well. That takes him into P13, Stéphane Tremblay in P14, and Jaden getting a penalty for crossing the line before taking that penalty. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be reminded that if you want to watch from the driver's point of view as well, pull up an extra tab and load up their links. They're all in our Instagram story. But ladies and gentlemen, epic race here this evening. The sun is now rising, and what a battle this has been. Raven Plummer in P1. The American driver takes his top step. She said it last week that she was going to get the top step of the podium, and it's so said, so done. Daniel Velez of Nova Racing in Colombia comes out in P2, and Michael McNamee to roll and finish off the podium steps in P3. Oswin Wilson in P4, Michelle Wallace P5, Kimani Eastman in P6, Rohir Robinson in P7, Rodrigo Senewild in P8. Cal Barrett now, he is unfortunately the biggest loser. He had the pace, ladies and gentlemen, to be in the top step of the podium, but unfortunately lost out to the drivers because of that incident with the driver of Jaden Harrison. And ladies and gentlemen, we're just taking a quick picture for the Instagram to come. We have the drivers going on in the chat. They have enjoyed this race. We will have a full grid, reverse grid, in only a moment's time. Ladies and gentlemen, a quick word from our sponsor, Ceramic Hair. They've been with us since we've begun this season, and what an absolute pleasure it's been to have them on board with us. We are looking forward to a fruitful future with them, as well as Emmanuel Boutique and anybody else who would like to join us. But nonetheless, we have so much more to come. Please take this brief intermission, get some water, get something to eat. I know I'll be having a little bit of water to ease my throat as we head into the full reverse grid. Ladies and gentlemen, what a battle this has been.
You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You see the most exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the action here. Ricardo, the Brazilian leads the pack. From P1 is Ricardo Ribeiro Reyes, followed by Nicholas Donald in P2, Milton Zuniga of Colombia in P3, Roger Keller of Switzerland in P4, the Colombian driver of Stéphane Tremblay in P5, Jaden Harrison in P6, Deville Park in P7. My apologies, maybe drank the water a little bit too quickly. Luis Arenas in P8, David Tuta in P9, Kyle Barrett now in P10, Rodrigo Senewild in P11, Rohir Robinson sits in P12, Kimani Eastman in P13, Michelle Wallace in P14. My apologies, let me just get that quickly. Michelle Wallace in P14, Oswin Wilson in P15, Michael McNamee in P16, Daniel Velez in P17. Right, that should fix in a moment's time. Raven Plummer in P18, and Mikhail Charles, because he did not finish the race, sits in last position. And Ricardo now, they will be lining up in double file, as you see Ricardo preparing for his race start. And what a battle this has been, ladies and gentlemen. We'll continue to ride along board with these drivers as they head down now into the final two corners. It is now officially morning in Italy, and the drivers are ready and waiting to get racing. Who will be victorious in this second race in round 6 of the race, race 2 of the reverse grid? You see the drivers now getting the sign to get racing. Nicholas Donald should not be in P1 right now, and there they go, green light racing, and Nicholas Donald does get a jump start on Ricardo, and Ricardo as well gets a drive through, I'm guessing because he was trying to catch back up to Nicholas Donald, who was out of position. So we'll definitely have to look at that at some point in the race. But the racing, we're seeing a few drivers there out of position. As always, Jaden Harrison being one of the greatest starters, as he has now made himself up right into P4. Kyle Barrett there as well is right there in the mix, as he is driving, I'm sure not angrily, but definitely trying to see if he can gain back that position, because he wanted that race win without a doubt and gave it up to the American. Now the Jamaican will be trying his best to see where he can fit in the next few stages. There he goes on the inside. Who was that? That was Luis Arenas, was it maybe? That was just careening outside, and there is Kyle Barrett now on the inside of Nicholas Donald as they head down now into the fastest section. Will hug that inside line, and for the first time this evening has seen P1 and will be definitely trying to pull away as quickly as possible, especially from the driver directly behind him. Well, not directly, but only one car behind him, in Jaden Harrison. And I'm sure Kyle now will be just trying to pull away as quickly as possible. We saw him with the pace in the early stages, and there he goes wide, and that gives him opportunity for Jaden Harrison to just sneak in and see if he can even gain an advantage. But nonetheless, that will be a cut for Kyle Barrett now, unless he conceded it. But no, the two go side by side into the penultimate corner, now into the final corner. Side by side they go. Deville Park now just waiting to see where he can pounce and maybe throw on a little bit of extra drama. He's had some unfortunate losses to the car in front of him in Jaden Harrison, so I'm sure, especially with this ballast system, we'll be looking to see if he can gain an advantage. But as it stands, that looks like Kyle will be very comfortable, or so I spoke too soon, as Jaden Harrison there not giving up. He wants that top step of the podium. He lost out in race 1, even lost out to Kyle because of that drive through and the final incident. So he himself will be trying to gain back as many positions as possible as the two go in, and bumper to bumper damage is happening as the racing is going on. But these drivers are definitely enjoying themselves. There's Deville Park now trying to see where he can fit into the fold as he's on the outside. Who is that? Deville Park losing out now to Kyle Barrett. Now the 3 make it into 2. Kyle now is promoted back into P1, and what a start to this race it has been. Only for 3.5 minutes. Jaden Harrison still not conceding though, as he has that inside line now as they head down now into this long straight. Who will will come out the fastest. It seems as if Kyle is very much so comfortable now to get away as quickly as possible. I'm sure we'll even be trying to use his hybrid system in hopes to pull away. I did see Daville park there as well in the grass, so not sure what happened there. Michael Charles as well is what started in P19, now sits in P3. So clearly he's had a little bit of time to think about what he's done, or not what he's done, but what he didn't get to do, and now wants to put back some pressure and get back into some action. Roger Killer as well with Oswin Wilson right there in the rear view. But what a start to the race this has been. And that is Michael Charles there, and that looks like it's going to be a safety car. All right, and that is going to be a safety car. Ladies and gentlemen, we just had the safety car called, and Cal Barrett now leading the safety car pack. I'm sure that's the last thing he wanted to hear, as he now has that Ford Focus literally just pushing him through the corners. Kyle will be the one to lead this pack away, but Kyle has the pounding Ford Focus driven by Jaden Harrison, his fellow countryman there right in the rearview mirror. I'm sure he'll be trying his best to get away as quickly as possible to get this race on the go. We will go green light racing in only a moment's time. Jaden Harrison followed right by Roger Keller of the Swiss driver David Tuto in his best position so far in P4, and Oswin Wilson in P5, Raven Plummer in P6, Nicholas Donald in P7, Misano Wallace in P8, and Daniel Velez in P9, Devil Park in P10. We will go green light racing in only a moment's time once Kyle passes the start finish line. Green light, green light, green light. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the action, and it's sounding like another safety car will be called, and the drivers will hold their position, gain back as quickly as possible. and unfortunately the race winner will be retiring from the race in Raven Plummer. The American had a lag spike at the beginning of that safety car restart, and unfortunately we're not confirming that, but that might have been what caused the second safety car start, or safety car, my apologies. So we will get back racing in only a moment's time, but sad to see our second retirement of the evening, as Gary was the first one that did get a retirement due to the disqualification. But Raven did not put her foot wrong and was absolutely epic this evening, and she did call it that she'd win the race. Unfortunately, she will not get a double kill this evening. But that being said, green light, green light, green light, and the racing has started back, and Kyle now immediately going defensive, trying to hoard off that Jamaican off Jaden Harrison. We'll hope for not another safety car now as the drivers are coming through the field. I'm seeing an assortment of drivers there in the back, just fighting it out to try and keep position as best as possible between Milton Zuniga and Michael McNamee. And there goes one into the wall, and there is Stephen Tremblay now making his move up into the next position. But unfortunately for Milton there, he will be at the back of the pack, and it was only one car, not three or more, so we will not be getting another safety car there. Roger Keller now is on the rear end of that Ford Focus driven by Jaden Harrison, and the trio will be pushing. They have 10 minutes to go. Roger definitely wants to make a name for himself here this evening. He made it on the podium last week and in round one, if I remember correctly, and he is definitely enjoying this season, and I'm sure will be trying his best to make up back for round race one. And there goes Roger there, trying to take a look on the inside of Jaden Harrison, and that Toyota Corolla looks absolutely rapid. The only Toyota Corolla we're missing right now is the one driven by Mr. Massive, but nonetheless, we will look forward to Mr. Massive coming back sooner than later. But there is Calvert now and Jaden Harrison now getting back into the action to see who can be the victor between these two. Again, we are seeing Raven in the chat. Thank you so much still for supporting us, even if you're not on track itself, but still, what an epic race from her this evening. An absolute spectacle. Didn't put her foot wrong, and unfortunately with sim racing we do have, well, I guess even in real life racing you do have these quote-unquote engine blowouts or tire blowouts, so we would consider that one as just an engine malfunction. Is that Jaden Harrison conceding maybe a track cut, maybe trying to stop from another drive-through? And there goes Roger Keller now taking that position away from him. David Tuta will be under threat as well by the Guyanese driver. The Guyanese driver has had more pace all weekend, so will he be able to put a little bit of extra pressure and maybe even get up into the podium positions? We've seen Aswin in the chats all season, and he's been itching to get back, and there he goes on the inside of the Colombian. There goes Aswin Wilson, and he got another move done, and now has his eyes set on Jaden Harrison, who will definitely have his sights set on his rear view mirrors, because he definitely will be trying his best not to get any extra cuts. Jaden will be definitely hoping and praying not to get any drive cuts this evening, any drive-throughs this evening, my apologies. And we're getting another safety car, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to ask Kyle once again to lower his speed to 50 kilometers. Hopefully we can just get back racing on this exact lap once the other drivers have cut or reached back up. And ladies and gentlemen, another safety car. This has been an absolutely dramatic race. I mean, Kyle himself must be sweating his behind off as he has those drivers just hounding him back. But there seemed like there was an incident between Roger Kello and the ones behind him, between either Jaden or Oswin, and as he went careening off the track. But that puts Oswin onto the final podium position and Jaden into P2. Jaden will be fighting his way through to see if he can even hound off Oswin Wilson. Mikhail Charles there being very aggressive in that defense. David Tuta as well, trying to see if he can make a move stick as he goes and uses the curb. Roger Keller there trying to block out as best as possible, but not enough was done, as now David Tuta is promoted. Michelle Wallace as well makes his way through Roger to pass Roger Keller, and Roger is now moving from P2 to P9 and has to go very aggressive on those brakes, maybe trying to get back a position. Maybe didn't feel like it was as fair of a race start for himself this evening, unfortunately. But we have 5 minutes remaining, 4.5 minutes remaining to say. And at this point he will definitely be trying his best to catch back up. Jaden Harrison as well, still not giving up on that final top step of the podium. He missed out in race 1 and will definitely be looking to see if he can get back in race 2 for that top step of the podium. Cal Barrett now had missed out on the top step, or the top 2 at least, and I'm sure he will be trying his best to hound off the rear, the Jamaican and the Guyanese driver right behind him. Rodrigo Sennewild, unfortunately, they're retiring from the race. I'm guessing he just figured it was just too far back. We couldn't wait for him to catch back up because we needed to get back racing as quickly as possible, unfortunately, but not nonetheless. Daniel Velez now, where's he? He has... I haven't seen Daniel on the track. Where's Daniel? We'll get to that soon. I know he's the one that did call us to know about the safety car, so I'm not sure if he was the one that got the rough end to that stick, but I believe he should be on here somewhere, but we'll find him sooner than later. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Oh, he is in P10. Wow, what a way. What a way I am. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Barrett now is sitting very much so in P1, and he's getting the helping hand of the Guyanese driver now, putting the pressure on the Jamaican behind him and in front of the Guyanese driver, let me say, as he is now trying his best to see if he can keep up as best as possible to hound off that Jamaican in front of him. But the Jamaican in front of him lost out on the points positions in the top 10, so I'm sure we'll be trying his best to see if he can gain back that as many points as possible in the second race. But the Guyanese driver has missed 3 of the 4 rounds, so he wants as many points as he can possibly get. Thank you, Raven. I don't know why I didn't see Daniel there for a moment's time there, but we see him now clearly trying to make his way through. But Jaden Harrison is hunting down Kyle Barrett, but he's also being hounded by the Guyanese driver, who will be the victor here. But Kyle Barrett now is just trying to keep his cool and keep as clean as possible. Roger Keller now, we watch with him. He has moved from P9 now into P6, and he has Davil Park there. I saw Davil off the racing line, so not sure what had happened with Davil there, but Davil now relegated down now back to P8. So Roger Keller now has the sights of the Colombian in front of him to get the best of the rest now. So will Roger, the Swiss driver, make his way up to catch back up to the car ahead? And he has shown pace all weekend, so didn't have the best race 1. Hopefully we can get him for race 2 in the top 4 at least, but who knows, the race is still very much so on the way. But P5 he sits right now, and we'll be definitely hunting him down. But Oswin and Jaden are still fighting it out. Oswin had the purple sector 1 and is very much so looking forward to a battle to see up to the end of this race where he can finish. And Oswin wants that P2 position. He wants it, he needs it. There are 2 blue Ford Focuses, and only one can be in P2 and one can, well, both, if we're going by the livery, both can be in P2 and P3 by the end of the this race, but nonetheless, we know what we're talking about in terms of the position. So we'll continue to ride along board to see what will come in the next few moments. We have 46 minutes and seconds of racing to go. Cal Barrett now still definitely trying to hold off. This will not be his final lap as he passes the start finish line, so he'll have one more lap after this to protect his lead from the two Caribbean competitors behind him in Jaden Harrison and Oswin Wilson, who will be victorious. Luis Arenas as well still has a Swiss driver right there in the rear view. Michael Charles not far off either, so he's looking to see if he can maybe find an alternative to maybe even gain an extra position, as he did not have a very good race in the beginning of this race. But there goes Oswin Wilson into P2. Sorry we missed it now, but there is Oswin Wilson taking that position from Jaden Harrison, and Jaden will definitely be trying to gain back that position as quickly as possible as the two make contact, and that will give Oswin Wilson a little advantage. And there Jaden gets another cut, so he will have to back off, or he will be receiving another cut, and that will just give him put him right in contention for another drive-through penalty. We haven't noted Rohey Robinson making any real inward roads this evening as well, so this will definitely be his drop race. We'll take a look quickly now as Luis Arenas has the Swiss driver holding him on 4P4. Cal Barrett now coming around the final few corners now until he begins to start his final lap, and this will hopefully be his victory lap, but we won't say anything more and bring any form of commentator's curse, as we've had one new race winner for the season. Will we have two? Oswin Wilson there still trying his best to catch back up, but at this point I'm sure we'll be very much so happy with P2. But what a move. Unfortunately we missed it, but please stay tuned to our Instagram. I will definitely go back and look back for that and post it to see which moves that we missed, and see if we can get some highlight reels on the way. But that being said, Cal Barrett has begun his final lap, the final lap of the race, and he will be pushing now, keeping it clean as possible as he comes around to start to finish up in his first victory here in the JSRA. And what an epic journey he has had. But nonetheless, we won't say another word until the checkered flag has been shown. But Luis Arenas is now the cork in the battle, as he has now put Roger Keller into contention for battle between the Trinidad driver of Michael Charles, now trying to see if he can even find the way through and find back another position and gain P5. But this is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure Michael, now you know him, will be trying to make that move stick as he takes a look on the inside, and he goes side by side with the Swiss driver as the two make contact. And there goes Michael Charles now trying to make that move, and they will now have a drag race up until the start finish. Michael Charles still sitting in the slipstream there. Roger Keller there immediately going defensive and saying, no sir, you will not get any switcheroo on me. Goes defensive again, holds his line, and Michael as well has to be extremely cautious because he is 1 point away from a qualifying ban for the final race of this season, so he has to be as cautious as possible. But as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, Cal Barrett now comes around the final corner and he finishes and takes P1 in the first time ever in the second race. P1 for Cal Barrett, followed by the Guyanese driver of Oswin Wilson and Jaden Harrison to finish off in P3. Michael Charles tried it but did not make that move stick, and Luis Arenas does hold off for P4. Roger Keller in P5, Michael Charles in P6, Michelle Wallace in P7, DeVille Park in P8, Daniel Velez in P9, Rohey Robinson finishes off in P10, so at least gets the final points position. Milton Zanego, I'm not sure if maybe you can see his brakes just boiling there and smoking at the front end of his Mitsubishi Lancer. Sits in P11, Kimani Eastman in P12. P13 goes to the Canadian driver of Stéphane Tremblay, Michael McNamee in P14, David Tuta in P15, Nicholas Donald, my apologies, in P16, and Ricardo Ribeiro in P17. Ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing the drivers complain and saying that they're sweating, they're absolutely tired. But what an absolute battle! Cal Barrett now taking his victory lap. As we conclude this evening's racing, what a battle this has been. I'm going to get the drivers ready and on their way for the post-race interviews. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now heading into interviews. What a battle this evening has been. I, for one, am absolutely blown away. I'm tired. I am exhausted, if you want to say so. But as we sit here and prepare, we will have interviews beginning with Michael McNamee, who came in P3. And this is his second podium here, I believe. In the JSRA, had his first podium in the iRacing series, but nonetheless, he is back on the podium box here. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Michael, congratulations on P3. You look like you're having a blast. You're chasing Daniel Velez for P2 in the latter stages of race 1, and we'll get to race 2 after with your dramatics. We missed a lot of it, but nonetheless, we could hear it on the radio stream. Could you walk us through that battle with yourself and Daniel this evening?
It was a very cumbersome race one, I'm telling you. Lot of theatrics here and there, back and forth with everybody. It was a very closely knit race, especially with these cars, and especially when you're driving the BMW, it's sliding everywhere on these cold tires. It's a danger zone. But on the point of me and Daniel, we have to say sorry to Jaden for punting him off. That was an honest accident, but as much as I tried to overtake Daniel and all that stuff, he still held his form, and I made so many attempts, and I was sweating like a pig trying to make my move. But props to Daniel. Got it, I didn't take P2, but on to next time, I hope. But yeah, good race overall.
Well, you missed the first 2 rounds. I believe Imola was your first round. But nonetheless, nonetheless, you've had a very good showing in this series so far, and now making your way up to the podium. So, brother, congratulations! What an epic drive it was, especially with that battle. We'll ask you quickly as well, because we have quite a bit of interviews for the first time. 2 new race winners, but nonetheless, we'd love to hear about your the second race and the dramatics that happened this evening.
Well, there's a lot to touch on with that race. I mean, thought I had something good going for that race until I was being boxed up and getting sandwiched constantly by all these cars, and unfortunately, I just being caught victim into many incidents. And there's just one moment I punted Daniel. Sorry to him, but I guess I sort of got the karma I deserved, and then he punted me in return in retaliation. As frustrating as it is, I couldn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I could have done something, recover from both safety cars, but I guess God wasn't on my side for tonight, but there's a lot to learn from this for me,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And it's still a lot of racing to happen, especially in the final round. We do have the endurance series next week, or mini endurance, let me say. I think that would be your first time with that format. Are you excited for it?
I mean, I love endurance. I watched World Endurance Championships, so no must.
Well, excited to see you next week, brother, at the final round of the Italian tour. But nonetheless, man, congrats on P3. What an epic showing it was. And we're looking forward to many, many, many more battles with you in the very near future.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael McNamee finishing off in P3 in race 1 and outside of the points in race 2, my apologies. But now we have Oswin Wilson. Oswin, can you hear me?
Yo.
Well, go on, brethren.
There.
Well, we can talk about race 1, but we can't wait to talk about race 2 in particular. But race 1, there's a little bit of dramatics there with the top 4. Could you walk us through that incident that dropped you out of I think it was from P4 to P9. It looked like you were just an unfortunate victim of an incident, but you can walk us through that point of view from your side.
Yeah, I guess in the game I have the smoke up a bit too high, so when Jaden, I think, hit Kyle, I couldn't see anything, so I didn't know where to go. So I just drive through the smoke, and end up collecting Kyle, so that was it. That was just due to the smoke, I couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did work your way up. I believe you finished, what, P5, was it? In race 1?
Not sure, P5 or P4?
P5, right, one of the two. And I'm more leaning towards P4 now that I think about it, because a lot of retirements came from that race. But this has been your first race back in the CTCC series. We normally see in the comments and in the chats, but very happy to have you on board. But you did have a battle there for P2 in race 2 with Jaden Harrison there, which looked very epic, if I do say so myself. Could you walk us through that battle?
Well, I know Jaden had the ballast, but I know he would have tried to defend as much as possible, but
Right.
the ballast was just too much for him. To be honest, I got a bit frustrated with the safety cars because I wanted a bit more time to catch up to the guy in first.
Right.
Yeah, so the race was just a bit too short, and I was pushing like hell because it was kind of vexed from the first race.
Trust me, I understand. Because we're looking forward to that battle. I'm sure even Kyle himself, who won the race, was getting frustrated as well, because every time he got even a little breather from Jaden Harrison and yourself, it just seemed like it was just another safety car after another. But nonetheless, we're hoping and praying that the safety cars will not continue being as frequent as they have been. But nonetheless, it was an epic battle and showcase of talent here this evening, man, and very, as we say, happy to have you back on board with this series. We have the final round of the Italian Tour next week, which is a mini endurance. Will we be seeing you, and what are your thoughts coming up into the next few stages of that race?
Well, sadly, I won't be able to make the
No.
next race, but you know it goes.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I wish I could be there, but it's always a pleasure racing with you guys. I totally enjoyed it tonight.
And it's always a pleasure to have you as well, man. I mean, you always add that extra bit of drama. Persons just start to get nervous when they see you come on track. So we do miss when you're not there, but nonetheless, we appreciate it when you can make it, and especially a night like tonight, you just gave us that much extra racing for us to enjoy. So thank you as always, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Oswin Wilson, finished in P4 or P5, please. I apologize for that brief lapse, but he finished in P4 in the first race, or P5, and P2 in the second race after an absolutely brilliant battle. But now we have the race team leader of Noble Racing has his own Moza racing store out in Colombia. A good one of my closest friends, if I do call him if I do say so myself, I call him my brother, Mr. Daniel Velez, car number 379, finished in P2 after hoarding off the likes of Michael McNamee for those final few moments in that race. He had what was it? I think 52 kilograms in that BMW, if I remember correctly, and still could hold off the Jamaican behind him. Finished in P2, had an unfortunate race in race 2, so we'll ask him about it. But Daniel, can you hear me? That was a mouthful.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. This was fun. This was fun.
Daniel, well, firstly, again, congrats on P2, man. What an epic showcase it was. Fighting it out with especially the likes of Michael McNamee there for P2 and P3 on the podium. I mean, you were chasing Raven, but she just looked like she had turbos, like an extra turbo attached to her car. But could you walk us through that battle with Michael from race 1? Because that was definitely something to enjoy up until the last moment.
Yeah, no, it was really, really hard. My car had like 70 kilograms on it or something like that, and I think Michael do not have anything, so the breaking point for him was so much deeper compared to me. He was gaining and gaining on the braking so hard. I was attempting to manage just the ERS. Because he was going fast. The race was very, very good. Then I think he made a mistake, and then he started to fight with, I think, Roger. And that's when I said, okay, I need to pull over. I need to start to using more ERS and to put some good laps, because he was going to catch me. And that's what happened. I attempted to save some ERS. And at the end, I finished like with 2 or 3% exactly in the last lap, just attempting to run from him because he was doing an awesome race.
Absolutely. And race 2 now, that was the dramatic race. Let's say, I mean, even hearing you call for the safety car, or for the race director to look for the safety car, could you walk us through what had happened there? Because you looked so promising, and unfortunately falling back to P10. I don't remember where you had finished. You can just fill in the gaps for me there.
Sure. So the start was very, very chaotic. Very cold tires. Some people was just standing it from the first moment, and it was kind of fun because from my point of view, like in one turn, you will see some guy in the right in the grass, and then in the next turn you will see another guy in the sand in the left, and then up ahead the same. So yeah, people was going on it. The race was very, very fun. We were doing very good, with traffic going ahead, attempting to follow Raven, who was doing amazing. And then on the restart, Raven like have a lag spike. Because I could not accelerate, because you cannot pass people before the green light. So somebody was going like 50 kilometers per hour, very, very slow, and I did not know what to do until you call green light. But then the people that was going behind, they do not have that problem, so they could go all on it. I lost a lot of positions there. It was really, really crazy, the fight at that moment. I was sandwiched on the first turn. And then, yeah, after speaking, it seems that it was Michael McNamee, the one who killed me in that turn. He was, as I told you, he could break a lot deeper compared to me. So he sent it when he did not have the opportunity, but he was attempting to do it. He hit me, and then I went backwards. Another people hit me, and then another people hit these other two guys. So it was like 3 or 4 cars involved there. I think I was almost last on that fight.
Safety car restart,
And then funny thing, it happened the same for me with Michael. He was fighting with another people in front who made him break a lot more, and he was on the outside of that same turn. When he killed me, he was so slow in the exit, and I thought that he was going to be faster, so I kept accelerating, and then I hit him, and Like
So,
it was the same and exactly in the same turn, so it was crazy.
so now I'm understanding where his apologies come from, because he did state a few apologies to you in particular, and then he said it, and I quote, "Karma reached him back." So he's there's no ill feelings, let's say.
No, no, not at all. You know, these things happen in racing.
Yeah,
When he hit me, it did, you know, make me mad because it was from so far behind. But
yeah,
you know that things happened, and we are wearing in cold tires.
yeah.
And then, you know, it's funny because I thought the one that I have killed was Michael Wallace. So I was
Mission.
I
Yeah,
thought that the one that I have killed was him. So I was so embarrassed to end his race, and then at the end, Masami and I spoke and like you killed me and then I killed you. But you know, we totally know it was not
right.
something done on purpose.
And again, we even when we're watching, we know nothing is purposefully, aggressive. It's just racing at the end of the day. Especially the nature of these cars in the Caribbean touring cars, they are touring cars, so you will get the bumping and the rubbing. We don't like the dive bombs per se, but nonetheless, we've seen some clean ones this evening. I will say so myself. But again, it was an absolute epic race for you. Nonetheless, sorry we didn't get to see you really showcase your talents in race two, but nonetheless, an epic race and P2 finish, and that should draw you, because I believe you are not too far away from Jaden and Rohe in the total championship standings. So again, congrats, brother. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we do post his live stream, and if you want to take a look at his personal POV as he races, we do have it on our Instagram. I believe it's Danville37 or Danville underscore.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So please, if you get the chance to look and watch, it is always epic to see the driver's point of views, and Daniel Zone can be very comedic, especially when he cusses out the drivers, trust me. Um, but nonetheless, congrats, Dan, and I'm sure I'll see, hopefully I'll see you for next week for the final round in the Italian Tour.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for this. This has been the best championship in the entire year. It's so much fun.
I
The
agree.
cars are great. Thank you for inviting us.
And thank you for joining, man. I mean, I'm loving the quality growth and the quantity growth at the same time. You recruiting your friends from Colombia and bringing in a very good level of drivers into our league. It just gets me more and more excited every day. So thank you as always, and bless you, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Daniel Velez. But for the first time in JSRA history, Kyle Barrett now takes race two as the race winner. He had what a stressful race two, especially on his debut race, to gain a win. Unfortunately for him, there were so many safety cars. We'd love to hear his point of view there. But Kyle, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Kyle, want to go on, Bridging?
Good man, how you doing?
I am tired. I can imagine you'd be the same.
Yeah, sweating over here,
I
man.
can imagine. Well, first of all, we want to talk about your qualifying lap. You're only a hundredths down. Raven stole that position away from you right at the last lap for her final qualifying lap. So you're a hundredth down on pole position. I'm sure you thought you had that one signed, sealed, and delivered. So we'd love to hear about your qualifying lap, and then we'd love to hear about the dramatics with you and Jaden, what exactly happened there, because we didn't exactly see what happened. And then we'd love to get to your race victory, but we can start with the qualifying lap.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped, honestly, because um, I just couldn't really get a good lap in. Either my laps were getting invalidated, or I just couldn't get the lap that I knew I could get. And so I was at one point, down like P8, and I knew I had the pace for at least the top three. And I've never gone driven that fast before, so that lap kind of surprised me, honestly. But when I did that lap, I was like, all right, like I thought I was good. And then I mean, kudos to Raven. I mean, at the last minute, she, you know, did a extremely great lap and got pole position. But I was still very happy with P2. That's my highest qualifying position so far.
Absolutely.
At in the CTCC championship. So I couldn't be too disappointed with that. And I just knew I had the pace overall, to go into the race. And so I was just saying, all right, at least I'm up here, just try and stay out of trouble and just stay up here as much as possible.
So we can get to the incident now between, I believe was it Jaden?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jade and I, we were fighting, throughout all the races.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just simple. Like he had hit me in the back under braking zone, and I had ended up just losing, control of the car, and yeah, I ended up falling down to, I don't know, somewhere towards the back. And later
P7,
on,
if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
later on, he ended up giving me bad position, but then I would have been back up there with, I think, like P3 or P4 maybe, but then I had to deal with penalties of corner cutting and all of that, so I ended up having a drive-through penalty. So race one was kind of a lot more stressful than I had anticipated. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate.
It was absolutely unfortunate, man. We were definitely rooting for you in the long term, especially with that battle between you and Raven. You, Raven, and Jaden. It was epic for the interim and for the period that we had it. We were enjoying it, but nonetheless, man, it was still a good fight back up until that drive-through penalty, and then it was just about getting back that position for race two. And I mean, immediately once the race began in race two, you and Jaden were just storming to the front. I mean, you made it to P1 by lap 2 or lap 3, if I remember correctly. Could you walk us through that moment, as well as what was going through your mind with the safety cars, the constant safety cars? Every time you built a gap, it seemed as if another safety car came and again and came and came and came. Could you walk us through what your thoughts were in that whole sequence?
Yeah, race two, I mean, again, like I knew I had the pace, and with the reverse grid, I knew obviously it was going to be a challenge. Um, was starting a couple positions in front of me, so my plan really was just to kind of follow him through. And then I think on that first lap, by, a couple corners in, I was already somehow taking the lead from Nicholas
Right.
Donaldson. And I didn't even know how I ended up. I think we're going three wide into one of the corners, and I ended up coming out best of that and having a good exit to be able to take that lead. And then we're just kind of fighting. I'm just trying to scrap around, trying to figure out our positions for like a couple corners and a couple laps. And then, yeah, so I was pretty surprised, honestly, getting up there that fast at the beginning of the race. And um, then the safety cars kind of happened. I mean, it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me, to be honest, because it's the first time I've been leading and actually having the pace to lead
Yeah.
in a race, so far in this championship. So I was really just trying to stay focused and consistent, but then the safety cars were kind of, messing up my consistency, my focus, and then the
Yep.
tires were going cold, and then so restarts, like I wasn't driving the best on the restarts, and then it just kept going and over, and then finally, once we ended up actually racing, we only had like a couple minutes left of racing. So I was like, all right, I only gotta
Just
hang this on
focus
for
up.
like 3 more minutes or 4 more minutes, and then that's it. But I mean, overall, like it was a great race. I hear a lot of stuff went down behind. I mean, race two with all those safety cars, but kudos to Raven for keeping together in race one, for keeping together in race one, and yeah, just happy I was able to keep together for race two and get that race win. I knew I had the pace, so yeah.
Well, Brooke, again, you said it before the race. You're no alien in development, and we're definitely looking forward to your progress and development in the next few stages. But congrats, man, on P1 and your first victory here at the JSRA. And it's not something that is small feat, because this one, in my opinion, would have been harder for you to win, and you still came back to win it, man. So congrats. And I'm looking forward to seeing you if you can make it next week for the final round of the Italian tour. But what a season this has been, and I'm happy that in this season particularly you could, well, this is your first season, really, not first, but you know what I mean. seriously contending, and what a battle this has been. And I'm looking forward to many, many more battles with you and many more interviews with you in the very near future. Congrats again, Kyle.
Thank you, thank you. I look forward to it.
Absolutely, bro. Bless you. Have a good
All right.
evening.
Yeah, man. You too.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Kyle Barrett now. And now we have the race winner from race one. She posted on Instagram up to last night that, ladies and gentlemen, she would be taking the victory this evening. And that, so said, so done. Raven Plummer takes P1. Unfortunately, and we do cry when we hear it or when we say it, we missed out on her coming through the field for race two. What a spectacle that would have been. But nonetheless, Raven, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, and I believe the stream can as well. Congratulations on P1. What an epic drive. I mean, the start of the race, we'd love to hear fighting off with Kyle and Jaden Harrison. But before we even get to that, the pole sitter of race one. What an absolutely epic final lap. You didn't even look like you went purple in sector two. It looked like you even went slow on your personal best, if I remember correctly, and it was just a shocker to see you go up 100th up on Kyle there on the final lap of your qualifying lap. Could you walk us through that, and were you expecting to take pole away from him?
I was not expecting to take pole at all. I was like a tenth behind. I want to say Mikael, and
Mm-hmm.
so I knew I had a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half to find on my laps. And so it was the last lap I had. I had two deployments of ERS or HPT. So at the start, before the start finish line on my second to last lap, used as much of it as I could, continued using it into turn one, and just tried to stay consistent. Tried to just do the lines I knew how to do. And, I managed to find a little bit of time in sector one. Sector two, I lost a little bit of it, but still overall was up
Good
maybe
enough. Yeah.
half a tenth. And then finally, it was in sector three, the very last turn, that I was able to find a few more tenths. With the BMW, with the brake bias in the back, and with proper pressures, you're able to kind of brake and hook shot the car into the apex, just abuse track limits, use as much of it as you can. And if you do it right, you're hardly on the brakes, you're letting the sliding of the car slow it down and get the proper rotation, and you're able to just power out. And fortunately, that was enough to find I think around 2 tenths, 3 tenths maybe, because I'd messed it up on my previous lap. And with that, I was able to take P1. So very surprisingly, I didn't think I was going to be able to do that.
I mean, again, you took it by 100th of a second. So what an epic sector three that was. And it was definitely, I mean, we do expect it in the top three, top two even. But when I saw you sector two, I will admit I did count it out of the pole position at least. But what an absolutely epic final corner, as you say. But the race one, now you had a brilliant start to race one. You had the likes of Kyle and Jaden as well fighting it out in the rear view. Could you just walk us through what your thoughts were then, and the
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I knew BMW has cold tires. For 2 laps, you cannot turn that thing. It is about as nimble as a Mustang. So my entire strategy was to get the launch off, use my curse, try to pull the biggest gap I could because I knew I was going to lose that gap. That gap would
Mhm,
not have been permanent.
mhm.
And so I managed to pull a bit of a gap, but as you saw, Kyle was able to just pull right back. He had so much more stability in the corners, and I really had to sacrifice my drive out of the corners. So I actually picked up 2 cuts on the first 2 laps, coming into what is that, turn one, two, turn five or so, right before the first straightaway. I couldn't sacrifice the power down. Of course, that sent me wide on the exit because the
Mhm.
tires were cold. They couldn't turn
Right.
while keeping that power. And those track cuts were sacrifices I had to make. And so the rest of the race was just me hoping that my cold tires would slow down Kyle enough to get into a fight with Jaden, and then they would, you know, build the gap for me.
Right.
And um, I think there was an incident between the two that allowed me to pull ahead. By then, my tires were warm, so I just kept my head down and did my best to not get any more track cuts because it was so easy. I
Yeah,
actually had 3 track cuts by the time I finished. And, you trail brake a little bit too hard, you get on the power a little bit too hard. Really anything could have gone wrong and given me that drive through. So I was sweating, losing a second per lap, and but get my head down and finish the race. Took P1.
absolutely. And again, epic drive you had. I'm gonna show my age now, but you're as cool as a cucumber, as young folk or as the old folks would say back in the day. But that being said, epic drive nonetheless. P1 in race one, and it was definitely a spectacle. My favorite part of this evening, I will admit, is that qualifying lap. So again, congratulations. But you're not new to winning races at the JSRA, but this has been your first race win in the CTCC Italian Tour, at least for this season. Any thoughts on the season so far? And will we be seeing you next week for the final round, the mini endurance as we call it, at the final round of the Italian Tour?
Yep. So I think this week the cars were a lot more balanced. Um, had there not been fighting, had there not been that incident with Jaden and Kyle, I would have struggled to hold on to first position. So I think things came out really well. I don't know how I managed to find that pace for qualifying. That's kind of an outlier
That
even
was
for me.
epic.
So, I was expecting to be third or fourth, but just the fact that we're able to pull that kind of pace, only 100th of a second off of second in qualifying. And that's, of course, I used up all of my fuel. I actually ran out of fuel right before the line. Um, but, I think this round the cars were very balanced. I know in race 2, when I was fighting in the midfield, there were a lot of times where it's like, okay, I can't rely on the pace advantage. I have to use my mind. I have to position the car right. I have to understand the driver's weakness and make them move fast. And so I think overall this was a really successful race. Of course, I am biased. I did win, but it's been a lot of fun. And even the races where I didn't win, um, that the competition is very close. We're talking tenths of a second difference between the cars. Of course, when you're trying to win the race, that's a huge difference.
Trust me.
But it's been very, very well balanced the entire season.
And it's been absolutely heartwarming to have you back on track as well. But before I let you go, we did see a few snapshots of you on your motorcycle I saw it this afternoon or this evening. Could you just give the fans a little brief understanding of what's going on, if you don't mind, in your motorcycling career?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, am I in love with my little 2024 KTM RC390?
Machine.
It's my first bike. I've been riding for 4 months, coming up on 5 now. Only about 3,000 miles under my belt, and I'm just in love with it. You can see I'm already focusing on my body positioning,
I was about
focusing
to say.
on trusting the tires, and just having a lot of fun with it. And of course, I'm staying safe. I have airbag vest, a full suit.
Nice.
I'm doing what I can to enjoy it responsibly and just have fun with it. I'm hoping to go to a track day by the end of the month, but plans aren't set in stone yet.
Well, definitely you're in our prayers to keep safe, first of all, but at the end of the day, enjoy yourself, Raven. We're happy to have you back on board with us. And even when you don't make it, we know it's because of your new motorcycling career, or if you just have your own personal life to handle. But nonetheless, we're always excited to have you back because we know the action that's going to come when we do have you in with us. But nonetheless, congratulations again. P1 in race 1. Unfortunate retirement early. And again, I thank you for even offering to come out, in the case of any further lag spikes and, inhibiting any of the racers. But nonetheless, it was awesome to have you. Congratulations, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bless you. Have a good night. And ladies and gentlemen, that was driver number 17, Raven Plummer. And that does bring our event to a conclusion. What an absolute spectacle of racing this was. We are going to go through the highlights and keep as much posting done as possible with as many highlights as possible. We missed out on a few of the action, so maybe this is a good time for us to start looking back at those and posting them on Instagram, get a little bit more hype and excitement. If you are enjoying the racing and you want to be a part of the racing, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at JSRA official. And if you want to share or like and subscribe, we do ask you kindly leave a subscription, leave a like, leave a comment in the comments just to say, hey, I've been here and I'm enjoying these races. We will continue to push and try and get as best of content that we can possibly get for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 10 o'clock and in Jamaica, and I'm going to bid you a very well good night. Thank you for spending your Friday evenings with us, and I hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed showing. But nonetheless, have an awesome evening, and we will speak or see you soon for next week in the final round at Misano World Circuit, in the final round of the Italian Italian season 6 CTCC tour.